Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and good morning everyone. I hope you are fine. I hope you are safe at home. Welcome back to the class of Social Studies. Dear students, this is your review class in which we are going to relearn the main things of these chapters. The chapters which we have covered are taking care of our environment, eclipses, trade and industries. So the first chapter we have covered is taking care of our environment. We should know that what is environment? Environment is basically everything around us is our environment. So we can say that environment is the world around us that includes physical, chemical and biotic factors which act upon an organism. We have discussed it in chapter when we were learning this chapter. We have discussed the physical, chemical and biotic factors in detail. Okay, so simply we can say that the world around us is our environment. Everything around us is our environment. Either they are living things or non-living things. The threat the threat from which our environment is suffering the most, that is the pollution. So pollution is something that is introduced and that is dirty, that makes our environment unhealthy, unclean and has harmful effects. That can be smoke, that can be any garbage. Okay, so here are the things which can cause the pollution. So simply we can say that anything that is causing the pollution is pollutant. The simplest definition of pollutant is any substance that is causing the pollution. Okay, then you can give the examples like smoke, dust, sewage, water. And after that we have divided the pollution into three main types, and these are land pollution. Anything that makes the land polluted is land pollution. There is another type, air pollution, when something gets mixed into the air and makes the air unclean, so that is the air pollution. And likewise water pollution, when something gets mixed into the water and makes the water dirty, so that is the water pollution. This is how we have divided the pollution into three main types. Pollution is the thing which is very dangerous to the world. We can reduce the pollution by a number of the ways. We can reduce the pollution by walking short distances instead of using cars. If we can cover the distance by walking, so we should not use car because car burns the fossil fuels. If it is not possible to walk or the distance is not too short, we can also use bicycles for this purpose. Apart from this, we can also use solar systems instead of burning fuels to produce light and other sources of energy. Okay, so solar systems, there are no side effects of solar systems. So we can use solar systems for producing light instead of burning fuels. If we use the generator, the fuels are burnt. We can plant more trees so that they can absorb more of the carbon dioxide that humans exhale. We know that plants absorb carbon dioxide and releases oxygen. So if we plant more of the trees, more of the oxygen will be there in the environment and pollution would be reduced. The second chapter in your social studies book was chapter Eclipses. In this chapter we have learnt about how Sun, Moon and Earth form a line with one another and how eclipses occur. What are the conditions for eclipses and how many types of eclipses are there? Let's have a review of this chapter. Many of the things we have learnt about eclipses in this chapter. For example, what is eclipse? When Earth, Moon and Sun form a line with each other, eclipse occurs. All the planets move around the Sun, we know. Moon is a natural satellite that moves around the planets. The path in which planets move around the Sun and Moon moves around the planets is called orbit. Earth takes 365 days to complete an orbit around the Sun, or we can say 1 year to complete an orbit around the Sun, and Earth takes 24 hours to complete a rotation. Okay, this is one rotation that is completed in 24 hours, and the one complete orbit around the Sun is done in 365 days. If we talk about the Moon, Moon takes 27 to 28 days to complete an orbit around the Earth. Okay, here we are talking about the Earth, not other planets, because here we are concerned with eclipses, and in eclipses we learn about Earth, Moon and Sun. So students, as we have learned in our chapter that there are two of the situations or the conditions for eclipses. Eclipses occur when Sun, Moon and Earth form a line with one another. So there are two conditions for the eclipse: the partial eclipse and the total eclipse. The types are different and the conditions are different. If we talk about the conditions, so the partial eclipse, when the Earth and Moon make the perfect line with Sun, it is called the total eclipse, and when the line is not perfect, they form partial eclipse. Here you can see that the Sun is completely hidden. It means it is total eclipse in which Earth, Moon and Sun make perfect line with each other. On the other hand, you can observe the partial eclipse here. Partial means not complete or incomplete. It means the Sun, Moon and Earth form a line with each other, but that line is not perfect. So that is why it is named as or known as partial eclipse. If we talk about the types of eclipses, there are two types of eclipses: solar eclipse and lunar eclipse. When Sun gets dark, it is solar eclipse, and when Moon gets dark, it is lunar eclipse. Here comes the first type of eclipse, and that is solar eclipse. This is how the solar eclipse look like, and here are the points. As I told you that in solar eclipse, Sun gets dark. Why it is getting dark? When the Moon comes in between the Earth and the Sun, solar eclipse happens because it blocks the sunlight to reach the Earth, so the sky slowly gets dark. Here you can observe the Moon comes in between the Sun and the Earth, blocking the sunlight to reach the Earth. This is why the sky slowly gets dark. On the other hand, there is another kind of eclipse or type of eclipse, and that is lunar eclipse. Lunar eclipse is basically the opposite of solar eclipse. In this, you can observe that one thing we know, that the Moon is continuously orbiting around the Earth. What happens in lunar eclipse? When the Earth comes in between the Sun and the Moon, lunar eclipse happens. It blocks the sunlight to reach the Moon, and Moon slowly gets dark in it. Look at here. You can observe here that you can see that the Earth is in between the Moon and the Earth, blocking the sunlight to reach the Moon. So what is getting dark here? Moon is getting dark here. This is how the lunar eclipse happens. There had been some of the myths about solar eclipse. The early record of solar eclipse comes from an ancient Chinese story, as we have discussed. Chinese used to believe that eclipse is caused by an invisible dragon eating the sun. On the other hand, in Japan, people once believed that the poison dropped from the sky during an eclipse. They used to cover all of their food and water. In India, people once believed that An invisible dragon in the sky is responsible for eclipse, and they used to offer special worship during eclipse. The third chapter according to our syllabus is Chapter Trade and Industries. We have learnt in detail about trade and industries. Here we are just going to discuss that trade is a word that indicates selling and buying of things for sake of money, and industries are the areas or building or places where things are manufactured. Dear students, as we use number of the things in our daily life, do you know from where all of these things come from? These all things come from industries. Okay, so the things which we use in our daily life like clothes, they come from industries and they are called as goods and services. Goods and services are the products of industries. Making these things in factories or industries is called manufacturing. The main component of your chapter Trade and Industries is developed countries and developing countries. Developed countries are those which are industrialized. They are called as developed country. They are also known as industrialized countries. And the examples are USA, Japan, Canada, France. Industrialized is the word that is indicating the good enough number of industries. On the other hand, if we talk about developing countries are those which are not successful but on the way to get the success. The countries which are becoming industrialized are called developing countries, and they are called as industrializing countries. And the examples are Pakistan, India, Iran, Iraq, and so on. There are a number of the industries in Pakistan, but if we talk about the largest industry of Pakistan, so the largest industry of Pakistan is textile industry. Textile industry is the industry where clothes are made. Here are two important definitions: import and export. Import is the term that is expressing buying of goods. On the other hand, export, that is expressing selling of goods. If we talk about the imports, imports are buying of goods and services from other countries to the home country. On the other hand, the export term expressing here selling of goods and services from home country to the other country. Here comes the main industrial cities of Pakistan. Karachi is the biggest industrial city of our country. Apart from Karachi, there are Faisalabad, Hyderabad, Kotri, Gujranwala, Gujarat, Sialkot, Multan, Sakhar and Lahore. Pakistan's major import and export items are there. Here is the export items that include rice, leather goods, carpets, raw cotton, textile goods, sports goods. On the other hand, there are import items that include medicines, tea. This is how the tea leaves look like. Edible oil, the cooking oil which we can consume as a food or we can use in our cooking. Other than this, machineries and electrical goods. Let's see some of the industries of Pakistan, some major industries of Pakistan and some smaller industries of Pakistan. If we talk about the major industries of Pakistan, that includes textile industry, ghee industry, sugar industry, paper industry, cement industry, iron and steel industry and cigarette industry. On the other hand, there are some small industries of Pakistan that includes oil seed milling, rice industry, carpet making, cotton spinning and weaving, leather, embroidery is done, pottery, and sports and surgical instruments. As I've told you before that Pakistan is an agricultural country and most of the economy we get through our crops. If we talk about the types of crops, there are two types of crops. Number one, food crops and number two, cash crops. Now we are going to discuss them one by one. The type number one is food crops. Food crops refer to a crop such as rice or wheat that is grown for human consumption. Here you can see the cotton in the background. So here we are going to learn about cash crops. Cash crops refers to a readily sellable crop that is grown and gathered for market as vegetable or cotton or tobacco. This was all about the review of our 3 of the chapters including taking care of our environment, eclipses and trade in industries. I hope you have got all of the things. Thank you so much. Inshallah we shall meet in the next class. Take care.